to put them in their place. I'ma have to set them straight. You don't know me. You don't know where I'm from or what I had to do to get this play. Hey, let me paint a picture. Everybody dissing, acting like it wasn't cool to listen. Now look at me.
Detroit, Michigan. Some of the best ballers in the game have come out of this city. Steve Smith, Garrett Coleman, Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, and most recently, UA's own Josh Jackson. I'm here with Under Armour Basketball to peel back the layers, get up with the locals, and find out why Detroit has had such a huge impact on the history of the game. This is Home Court Detroit. In order to find the future of basketball in this city, we need to understand its past. This is where it all began.
Earl.
What's going on, man? Welcome to the Saints, man.
Appreciate you. This is it?
This is it, man.
Okay.
All of it.
The office.
Yeah.
From professional athletes to musicians and entertainers, if you want to gain respect in the city, you got to go through the Saints.
The sound effects, too, like when the ball hits the floor, the echo.
Yeah. Each city has like their mecca. And like, you know, would you say this is at the top of the list?
No doubt it's at the top, you know. And I remember going to Philadelphia, and we had a great team with Dr. J and Moses in '83 where we won a world championship. You know, as soon as that season ended, after the parades and everything was over, time to get back home and go to Saints City, because that meant nothing to the guys here in the city. They're like, you won a championship, you're not gonna win Saints this summer though.
What are some of the names you've seen come through here?
Man, I mean, just from generations. I mean, it all kind of started with Dave Bing. Didn't have a contract with the Pistons and needed a place to work out. And it was right after the riots, and Sam Washington opened this place up, and that kind of branched off into, you know, George Gervin was like a favorite coming in here to put on shows every weekend. And talk about like Joe Dumars and Isaiah, Lindsey Hunter and all those guys, you know, kind of adopted Saints to see. Everybody that came to town, this was the spot to come to prove yourself. And this is probably the prestige wall right here. And right there you see Marvin Gaye. See, Marvin Gaye used to come in here and shoot around all the time.
Could Marvin Gaye play?
Marvin wasn't that great of a player, but he
forgive him because
he would try. He was a great singer, so we weren't gonna mess with Marvin.
I really appreciate you, just coming in here. It's been amazing.
Good.
Thank you for this.
We gotta keep it alive.
We
gotta keep Saints to see you alive.
If you grew up hooping in the D, you know the Joe Dumars Fieldhouse. Joe D was a legend in the game during the bad boy years of the late 80s and early 90s.
Old friends wanna get they talk on, making excuses.
Dumars helped bring back-to-back championships as a player. Then he even led Detroit back to prominence as the president of the 2004 NBA championship team. Getting to know what made that brand of basketball special is critical to knowing how life in Detroit crafts a special type of player.
Basketball has always been an outlet and a way out for so many people, man. Everywhere. It was a way for kids to get scholarships to college. It was a way for kids to maybe make it to the NBA. It was really just to give young guys, young girls, somewhere to go. You know, a staple to their community. And that was the whole purpose of doing it.
Do you see a certain style in Detroit basketball?
First of all, you got to go hard. That's number one before you get to anything else. And they're going to compete night in and night out. They're going to show up, and dude's going to be right here.
Do you feel like the resiliency of this city and like the culture of it reflects in their game?
That was the reason that the Bad Boys were such a staple here.
Right.
We represented Detroit. Like, we weren't the Showtime Lakers. We weren't Bird and Boston. We were Detroit. That's what I tried to do as president of Pistons. I wanted those guys who I knew, because I knew the city. They were more than just a team. They were the representatives of the culture.
Detroit has produced all kinds of talent. We're off to the west side for a quick training session with local professional boxer Tony Harrison.
Remember, we was broke, remember, Lord forgive me, let nobody catch me, I can't hold my temper, Remember, we was broke, remember, used to track the rental, open up the magazine, my bitch is center, Remember, wait, nah, let me jog it, I just keep them bank notes, whoa, I don't jog shit.
What's up, Stromas?
Tony here.
Yeah, man, pleasure.
Basketball is one of the sports that can reach any type of given person. You know, it reaches the small, the big, the tall, the skinny, and that's in any athlete. Everybody got hoop dreams.
What was it like playing in these neighborhood parks?
Man, it was tough, man. You got to foul. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about scoring points, it's about fouling out there. You know what I'm saying? When that guy check you, pass the ball.
Yeah, don't drive on him.
No, pass the ball. Pass the ball, because Hey, you know what? It's an unlimited amount of fouls out here. You're gonna get every single bit of it.
Like, what do you see that all athletes from the city of Detroit have in them?
The swagger, you know, like the stuff the Fab Five did, man. So if it's not the swagger and the demeanor on the court, it's the toughness on the court. The mentality of everything, man, it's like, no matter where you go, you gotta be tough.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's Detroit. You walk in the club, what's up? You gotta be tough. It's gotta be a tough what's up.
Yeah,
you know?
Do you think that impacted you as a youngin' growing up?
I mean, I think everybody wanted to be part of that wave.
I'm not even from here, and I wanted to be a part of that wave.
I mean,
man.
the wave was just so strong, man. It was tsunamis. You know what I'm saying? And that's the wave that every athlete in Detroit stood for after that. You know, we're gonna do us, and we're gonna win while we're doing it.
You train some basketball players.
For me to push a hooper, and I see a hooper throw up, or I see a football player throw up, I know something I'm doing right. Sometimes you gotta touch their soul.
Well, since you train these hoopers out here, I don't mind hopping in here, maybe getting some education from the man himself.
Let's rock. Well, footwork is the foundation for anything you're doing. When they go into the lane, how they doing crossovers, it all plays a part. 1, 2. 1, 2 count. Let's rock and roll, baby.
In this comeback, Detroit has a fresh crop of entrepreneurs. Tommy Walker is part of that new school. My boy Matt Murray, also Detroit native, made sure we stopped by Tommy's store to learn what continues to fuel his passion for his roots.
From the outside looking in, it's always been shown to us that it's unappealing, you know, nobody's caring. So how do you guys find a way to be like, you know what, this is my city?
That narrative has been being pushed like a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not the truth of us being here and seeing like, oh man, that's just stuff they telling y'all to keep y'all away.
You know, and when Detroit versus Everybody first came out with the Bad Boys, like it wasn't just them up against all the other teams in the league, it was the economy up against America.
Right.
These guys were playing for us.
Right. It ignites some type of underdog energy to where it's like, you know, I just have to prevail.
I feel like if you're from Detroit, it's kind of inevitable. You're going to dribble the ball at one point.
Yeah. You playing in the snow.
Right. What was something you guys seen growing up just playing against guys from all ages?
Seeing kids get scholarships, you know what I'm saying, to colleges or making it to the league, it just shows that with hard work and dedication, you can do anything.
I really appreciate you guys coming out, being from here, you guys showing that toughness that this city, you know, has. It's a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
From Motown to techno to hip hop, the history of music in Detroit speaks for itself. We're headed to chop it up with Sada Baby, who's arguably one of the hottest names coming out of Detroit. There's no better place to meet him at than the iconic Dilla's Delights, started by Jay Dilla's Uncle Herm.
Yeah, and then we get the last 2 regular ones too, and that's it. I'm out your hair.
You got this like carefree energy about you.
Comfortable.
Yeah, and watching one where you shimmying and stuff like that, all that stuff like that type of energy. I don't necessarily see that with other artists like that though.
Excuse my language, but how am I gonna dance to my music? You know what I'm saying? Like,
thinking you can't, you know, before rapping and couldn't stand still. I mean, you would hoop, right?
For sure.
What you said, boy?
Still hoop.
I feel like there's always been a connection between hip hop and hoop. It goes hand in hand.
Playing basketball got a whole lot to do with my makeup. You feel me? Right. That's why I still do it, and I'm still in love with it to this day. We literally used to hoop in the snow.
Right.
Ball don't bounce, but we just shooting it. You feel me? Like,
what basketball players from Detroit kind of inspired you growing up?
Ramar Smith, Manny Harris.
Oh, Manny Harris, yeah.
Brandon Cotton.
Oh.
Yeah, and then the young boys who's coming up behind me, like Josh and Miles and them, you feel me? Like, it just woke it back up.
Speaking of Josh Jackson, you got a song. Talk about that and how that came about.
In a lot of my music, I reference basketball players. I don't say Josh's name at all. It was just how I was attacking the beat, you feel me? And I felt like the mood to put me in, I was like, yeah, it remind me of bro. And I just named it after him.
Good looking, man. Appreciate you stopping by.
You know, it's all love. I ain't even done that.
You already heard Sada drop his name. Brandon Cotton is one of the best prospects to ever come out of Detroit, a member of the coveted All-American class of 2003. His playing career may be over, but he's passing on his wisdom to the next generation of hoopers.
The list goes on and on and on, and just from this one city, and then he's even going to outskirts.
There's so many great players that came through the city, man. Once we started naming players, we'd get to 20, and then we'd think of 10 more that we left off the list. It's like,
what about? Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, it's just a long testament of basketball here in the city, man. I'm glad I was one of the individuals whose name is mentioned in that conversation.
The feeling that you got from those players, how do you translate that over to the young fellas coming up behind you?
Like I tell the kids that I work with now, and I was probably the best in the state coming out my senior year of school. Of course, so when I got to Michigan State, it was 6 other Brandon Cottons.
Yeah.
And I would watch Shannon Brown, Allen Anderson. I would watch those guys being in the gym at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night after we just got done with a 4-hour practice.
Right.
But the hard work paid off for him. His first round draft pick. So college coaches and scouts come into the gym because they already know you can play. They want to see how do you respond to adversity. They want to see how's your character off the court.
I appreciate you talking to me, man. Thank
appreciate
you.
it,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes,
Definitely
sir.
appreciate it.
Next up, we are riding to Midtown to meet with a special group of young ladies who are making their mark on the city at UPrep Academy.
But one of the main things about being a Detroit player is pride. It's embedded in our DNA. From it always being just cultivated in our culture with the Bad Boys or the Fab Five. We have a lot of talent in Detroit, especially young talent. And I feel like sometimes they get overlooked because there's not a lot of programming around it. Like I felt like the Saint was my place to go to. Joe Dumars was my place to go to because it was an outlet. And we want to have those same opportunities for our youth here in Detroit. You start unknown, you end unforgettable. That is definitely what Detroit basketball is about.
Long live Detroit, a city overlooked by most and doubted by many. It has been crafting its legacy from the inside out for decades. We came here to understand the history of hoops. We left with much more, a tale of resilience, grit, and a fundamental understanding that hard work is the engine that keeps the Motor City running.
She got me high, she got me bothered. It's gon' get dropped, it's gon' get slaughtered. I done that all but for some music. Ubers over roaches, I don't drive. While I'm hot, I won't even ride with you. Pushing the sled, the cab, keeping them pies on me. Press on my magnum, man, my little